Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with me as we talk about a topic that many English learners wonder about: how to learn English effortlessly. If you've ever felt like learning English is too hard or that it takes too much time, then this podcast is just for you. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Jason, and I've been helping people just like you learn English in a way that's easy, natural, and enjoyable. Over the years, I've seen how many students get frustrated with traditional methods, and they often feel like they're not improving as quickly as they'd like. But the truth is, learning English doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to feel like a big challenge every day. In fact, learning English can be simple, fun, and, yes, effortless. Now, you might be asking, how can learning English be effortless? Well, let me tell you that it's all about changing the way you approach learning. You don't need to study for hours every day or memorize long lists of vocabulary. Instead, you can start making small changes to how you practice English that will help you improve naturally, without feeling stressed or overwhelmed. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you some simple and practical tips that you can start using right away. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you've been practicing for a while, these tips will help you practice speaking and listening in a way that fits into your everyday life. You'll learn how to immerse yourself in English, make listening and speaking a daily habit, and most importantly, keep your learning fun and motivating. I want you to remember one thing. You are already capable of learning English, and you don't have to do it the hard way. The key is to approach it with patience, consistency, and a positive mindset. In today's episode, we'll explore how to make English learning a part of your life in a way that feels easy and enjoyable. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of effortless English learning together. Understanding the concept of effortless learning. Before we dive into the methods that make learning English easier, let's first talk about what we really mean by effortless learning. You might be thinking, is it really possible to learn something as complex as English without feeling like it's hard work? The answer is yes. And here's why. When we think of learning, we often imagine sitting at a desk, memorizing vocabulary, and going through endless grammar rules. We may picture ourselves studying for hours, feeling stressed, and constantly worrying if we're making progress. But this traditional way of learning isn't always the most effective, especially when it comes to learning a language like English. Instead of thinking of learning as something that requires intense effort and frustration, think of it as something natural and fun. This is what we mean by effortless learning. Effortless learning is about removing the pressure and stress that often come with learning a language. It's about using methods that feel easy, enjoyable, and even relaxing. Imagine that instead of forcing yourself to study for hours or feeling anxious about making mistakes, you are learning English by simply living in it. This might sound too good to be true, but it's not. In fact, it's something that many successful language learners do. Here's how you can start to think about learning English as something that feels effortless. Shift your mindset. The first step to effortless learning is changing the way you think about learning itself. Many learners have the belief that they need to work extremely hard, or that they have to memorize everything to succeed. But learning doesn't have to be a struggle. If you approach English with a positive mindset, focusing on progress rather than perfection, you'll start to enjoy the process. The less pressure you put on yourself, the more natural your learning will feel. Learn through experience, Not memorization. One of the biggest mistakes people make when learning English is focusing too much on memorizing words and grammar rules. Yes, vocabulary and grammar are important, but they shouldn't be the only focus. Instead, try learning English through real experiences. This means listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, reading books, and having conversations in English. When you're exposed to English in real situations, you start to understand it naturally, without having to memorize everything. For example, think about how you learned your first language. As a child, you didn't sit down and study grammar rules or memorize vocabulary lists. You learned by listening to your family, watching TV, and playing with friends. The more you were exposed to the language, the better you got at speaking and understanding it. This is the same idea for learning English. The more you surround yourself with English, the easier it will be to pick it up. Make learning part of your daily life. Effortless learning happens when you make English a part of your everyday routine. Instead of setting aside hours for study time, you can incorporate English into the activities you already do. This might mean listening to an English podcast while commuting, watching your favorite movies with English subtitles, or even changing the language settings on your phone or social media accounts to English. These small changes add up over time and help you get more comfortable with the language. Focus on listening and speaking. A common challenge for many learners is speaking English fluently. We often feel nervous about making mistakes, so we avoid speaking. However, one of the easiest ways to learn English effortlessly is by focusing on listening and speaking. Why? Because these are the most natural ways we learn languages in the first place. When you listen to English regularly, you start to pick up on new words, phrases, and sentence structures. Similarly, when you practice speaking, you start using the words you've heard in real conversations. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal is to get comfortable with the language. As you listen more and speak more, you'll notice that it starts to feel easier and more natural. Celebrate small wins learning. English effortlessly is not about achieving perfection right away. It's about making small, steady progress over time. Celebrate every little victory, whether it's understanding a new word, completing a simple conversation, or watching a movie without needing subtitles. When you focus on these small wins, you'll stay motivated and continue to improve without feeling overwhelmed. Consistency over intensity. One key to effortless learning is consistency, not intensity. Many learners believe that they need to study for hours to make progress. But in reality, it's much better to practice for shorter periods every day. Even if you only have 15 minutes a day to practice, you will improve over time if you stay consistent. It's the regular, small amounts of practice that add up to big results. Let it be fun. Finally, effortless learning is all about having fun. If you enjoy the process, you'll naturally want to keep learning. Find ways to make English interesting for you, whether it's through music, TV shows, games, or talking to friends. The more you enjoy learning, the less it will feel like work, and the faster you'll improve. In conclusion, effortless learning is about making English learning a part of your everyday life in a natural and enjoyable way. It's about shifting your mindset, listening and speaking regularly, focusing on real experiences, and not stressing about perfection. By following these tips, you'll be able to learn English with ease, without the pressure or frustration that often comes with traditional methods. Immersing yourself in English. One of the most powerful ways to learn English effortlessly is by immersing yourself in the language. But what does immersion really mean? And how can you do it effectively? Let's dive into this concept and explore why it's such a crucial part of your English learning journey. What is immersion? Immersion is the process of surrounding yourself with a language as much as possible. When you immerse yourself in English, you're constantly exposed to it, whether through listening, reading, or speaking, until it becomes a natural part of your daily life. It's like when you were a child learning your first language. You didn't sit in a classroom memorizing grammar rules. You learned by being surrounded by people who spoke the language all around you. In language learning, immersion works the same way. The more you are exposed to English in everyday situations, the more easily you'll start to understand it, speak it, and think in it. But the key is consistency. The more often you practice and expose yourself to English, the easier it will become. How can you immerse yourself in English? Listen to English content regularly. One of the best ways to immerse yourself in English is through listening. The more you listen to the language, the more you will begin to recognize words, understand sentence structures, and develop a natural feel for how the language flows. You can listen to English content while doing other activities, which makes it easy to incorporate into your daily life. Some great options for listening include podcasts. Choose podcasts that match your level and interests. There are podcasts available for beginners, intermediate learners, and advanced learners. You can listen to stories, interviews, and discussions about various topics. Try listening to English Amazing Podcast or other similar podcasts to practice speaking and listening. Music. Listening to English music is a fun way to practice. Pay attention to the lyrics and try to understand the meaning of the words. You can even sing along to improve your pronunciation and fluency. Audiobooks. If you enjoy reading, audiobooks are a great way to combine listening and reading. Find books you're interested in and listen while following along with the text. This helps you learn new vocabulary and context and improves your comprehension. Movies and TV shows. Watching movies or TV shows in English is another excellent way to immerse yourself. You can start with subtitles in your own language and then switch to English subtitles as you improve. This helps you learn everyday vocabulary, slang, and expressions that native speakers use. Change your environment to English. To fully immerse yourself, you should make changes in your environment so that English is everywhere you look. Here are some simple ways to surround yourself with English. Change your phone settings to English. The more often you see English, the better. Change the language on your phone, social media, and computer to English. This will help you pick up new vocabulary and get used to seeing words in English daily. Label objects around your home. Another great way to learn vocabulary is by labeling things in your house. Stick small notes or labels on objects like the refrigerator, door, or desk, and write the names of these items in English. Every time you use these items, you'll be reminded of the words. Follow English accounts on social media. Follow accounts, pages, or groups in English. Whether it's an Instagram page, YouTube channel, or Twitter account, consuming content in English is a great way to stay connected to the language. Engage in conversations with native speakers. One of the best ways to immerse yourself in English is by speaking with others who speak it fluently. Engaging in conversations helps you practice in real-life situations and builds your confidence. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Speaking is one of the quickest ways to learn. Here are some ways to practice speaking. Language exchange. Partners. Find someone who is learning your native language and arrange a language exchange. You can spend half the time speaking in English and the other half in your native language. There are many apps and websites where you can find language partners, like Tandem, HelloTalk, or Speaky. Speak with friends. If you have friends who are fluent in English, try speaking with them in English during your conversations. Even if it's just a few minutes a day, it's great practice. Online English classes or speaking clubs. Many online platforms offer one-on-one lessons with native speakers, like italki or Cambly. You can also join speaking clubs where you can talk with other learners and native speakers. Read in English every day. Reading is another excellent way to immerse yourself in English. It helps you improve your vocabulary, learn how sentences are constructed, and expose yourself to different writing styles. Here are some easy ways to start reading in English. Books. Pick books that match your level. Start with simple books for beginners and work your way up to more challenging texts. If you're not sure where to start, try reading children's books, as they often use simpler vocabulary and sentence structures. Articles and blogs. If you're interested in a specific topic, search for blogs, articles, or websites in English that cover it. This will help you learn new vocabulary related to your interests. News in English. Reading the news in English can help you learn how to discuss current events and improve your formal vocabulary. There are websites like BBC Learning English or News in Levels that offer news in simple English, which can be especially helpful for beginners. Write in English. Even though writing isn't always part of the immersion process, it's a great way to practice your English. Writing regularly helps you solidify new vocabulary, improve your grammar, and get more comfortable with sentence structures. You can start by keeping a journal. Write about your day, your thoughts, or what you've learned. This practice will help you become more confident in using English to express yourself. Engaging in online communities, join forums, comment sections, or social media groups where people discuss topics in English. The more you write in English, the better your skills will become. The power of consistency. The key to immersion is consistency. The more time you spend with English, the more naturally you will learn it. Just like learning your first language, you won't notice the changes immediately, but over time, you'll see improvement in your ability to understand, speak, and think in English. Focus on listening and speaking. When it comes to learning English effortlessly, focusing on listening and speaking is one of the most effective strategies. These two skills are the foundation of language learning and are often the hardest to practice in a traditional classroom setting. However, when you prioritize listening and speaking in your daily life, you'll find that learning English becomes much easier and more enjoyable. Let's dive into why these skills are so important and how you can improve them in a natural, stress-free way. Why listening and speaking matter. Before we get into the methods of improving your listening and speaking skills, it's important to understand why these two areas are crucial in language learning. Listening develops your understanding of English. Listening helps you develop a better understanding of how English works in real-life situations. By listening to native speakers, you get to hear how words are pronounced, how sentences flow, and how language is used in different contexts. This exposure helps you improve your vocabulary, comprehension, and pronunciation without even realizing it. Speaking builds confidence. Speaking is essential because it allows you to practice using English actively. Many learners focus too much on reading and writing and forget about speaking, but the more you speak, the more confident you become. Speaking also helps solidify your language skills because it forces you to recall vocabulary and grammar in real time. The more you practice speaking, the more fluent you'll become. Listening and speaking are connected. Listening and speaking go hand in hand. When you listen to English, you hear new words and phrases, which you can then use when speaking. By focusing on listening first, you prepare your brain to understand and produce the language when it's time to speak. How to improve your listening skills. Improving your listening skills doesn't mean spending hours in front of a textbook or memorizing difficult listening exercises. Instead, focus on making listening a regular, enjoyable part of your daily routine. Listen to English content. The key to improving your listening skills is to enjoy the content you're listening to. Choose podcasts, music, TV shows, movies, and audiobooks that interest you. Whether you enjoy storytelling, sports, news, or comedy, the more engaged you are with the content, the more you'll want to listen. For example, start with podcasts in English. If you like English podcasts like English Amazing Podcast, you'll not only get exposed to natural language, but also have fun while learning. Try listening to the episodes while you're doing everyday tasks like cooking, cleaning, or commuting. Use subtitles or transcripts. If you're watching a movie or TV show in English, start with subtitles in your native language. As you improve, switch to English subtitles to better connect the spoken words with their written form. This way, you're actively improving both your listening and reading skills at the same time. Similarly, many podcasts and audiobooks offer transcripts. Listening while reading the transcript can help reinforce the connection between what you hear and what you read. Practice active listening. Active listening means focusing fully on the content you're listening to. Avoid multitasking and give your full attention to the audio. Try to listen for specific details, whether it's vocabulary, idioms, or new phrases. This practice helps improve your listening comprehension and ensures you're truly understanding what you're hearing. Listen to slow and clear speech. When you're starting out, it's important to practice listening to slower and clearer speech. Many learners find it difficult to follow native speakers because they speak quickly. To help with this, look for resources made specifically for learners, such as podcasts or YouTube videos designed for English learners. These materials are usually slower and easier to follow, giving you a better chance to absorb the language. How to improve your speaking skills. Now that you understand the importance of listening, it's time to focus on speaking. Speaking is a skill that requires practice, but don't worry, you don't need to wait until you're perfect to start. The more you practice speaking, the easier and more natural it will become. Speak as much as possible. One of the best ways to improve your speaking skills is simply to speak. It might feel intimidating at first, but the more you speak, the more fluent you will become. If you don't have anyone to speak with in person, use online platforms where you can practice with native speakers or other learners. You can also practice speaking alone. Try talking to yourself in English about your day, your plans, or your thoughts. This is a great way to build confidence and fluency. You can also record yourself speaking and listen back to identify areas where you can improve. Don't fear mistakes. A lot of learners are afraid of making mistakes when they speak, but mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. The key is to keep going. When you make a mistake, simply learn from it and move forward. Over time, you'll make fewer mistakes as you become more comfortable speaking. Find a language exchange partner. If you're looking for a way to practice speaking with someone else, consider finding a language exchange partner. This is someone who is learning your native language and wants to practice English with you. You can exchange languages, helping each other improve. Apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, and Speaky are excellent tools for finding language exchange partners. Join online speaking clubs or classes. There are many online communities where you can practice speaking English with others. Look for virtual speaking clubs or conversation classes. You can join group discussions, practice with teachers, or speak with fellow learners who are on the same journey. Regular practice in a supportive environment will help you gain confidence and improve faster. Imitate native speakers. A great way to improve both your pronunciation and fluency is by imitating native speakers. Listen to how they speak. Pay attention to their tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. Try to imitate what you hear. This is called shadowing, and it helps improve your accent and speaking flow. Set realistic speaking goals. Set small, achievable speaking goals that you can work on daily. For example, aim to have a 5-minute conversation in English each day, or introduce yourself in English in front of a mirror. Setting small goals keeps you motivated and helps you gradually build confidence. The power of combining listening and speaking. The true magic happens when you combine listening and speaking. The more you listen, the more you will hear new words, phrases, and structures that you can use when you speak. Similarly, speaking regularly will reinforce the language patterns you've learned through listening. The goal is to create a cycle where listening and speaking feed into each other. As you listen more, you'll understand better, and as you speak more, you'll feel more confident in your ability to communicate. With consistent practice, these skills will begin to feel natural, making English learning an effortless process. Learn vocabulary in context. When it comes to learning English, one of the most effective ways to expand your vocabulary is to learn words in context. Simply memorizing a list of new words without understanding how they fit into real-life situations can make them harder to remember and use. Instead, learning vocabulary through context helps you understand the meaning, usage, and nuances of words more naturally. In this section, we'll explore why learning vocabulary in context is important and how you can do it effectively. Why learning vocabulary in context matters. Learning vocabulary in context is not just about remembering a word's definition. It's about understanding how the word fits into sentences, conversations, and real-world situations. Here's why it matters. Improves retention. When you learn a word through context, you're more likely to remember it. Understanding how a word is used in a sentence or story gives you a mental image of it in action. This helps you recall the word when you need it in your own conversations or writing. Helps you understand nuances. Many English words have multiple meanings or different uses depending on the context. For example, the word bank can refer to a financial institution or the side of a river. If you only learn the word in isolation, you might not understand which meaning to use in a particular situation. Context helps you grasp these subtleties. Supports natural use of vocabulary. Knowing a word's definition is only part of the learning process. You also need to understand how it sounds, how it's pronounced, and how it fits grammatically into sentences. Learning words in context helps you use them correctly and naturally. Makes learning fun and engaging. Learning vocabulary in context, such as through stories, movies, or songs, keeps the process interesting. You're not just memorizing words, but you're discovering them as part of a real, engaging story or conversation. This makes the learning experience more enjoyable and less boring. How to learn vocabulary in context. Now that we understand the importance of learning vocabulary in context, let's look at some practical ways you can do this effectively. Read stories and articles. One of the best ways to learn vocabulary in context is through reading. When you read books, stories, articles, or blog posts, you're constantly exposed to new words in real-life situations. For example, when you read a novel, you encounter words used in conversations, descriptions, and settings. As you read, try to guess the meaning of unknown words based on the surrounding sentences. This will help you better understand how those words are used. Tip: choose reading material that is interesting to you. If you enjoy the topic, you'll be more likely to stay engaged and pick up new words without even realizing it. Watch movies and TV shows. Watching movies or TV shows in English is another fantastic way to learn vocabulary in context. Hearing words used in natural conversations allows you to understand not only their meaning, but also how they are pronounced and used in real-world situations. You can also see the body language, gestures, and emotions of the speakers, which helps you understand the meaning behind the words even more clearly. Tip: start with subtitles in your native language if necessary, and gradually switch to English subtitles as your level improves. This helps connect spoken and written language, making it easier to absorb new vocabulary. Listen to podcasts and audiobooks. Listening to podcasts or audiobooks is a great way to immerse yourself in English. Similar to movies and TV shows, podcasts provide context through spoken words. You'll hear words used in different topics, and the context will give you a better understanding of their meanings. Audiobooks are especially useful if you want to see the written form of the words while you listen, reinforcing what you hear. Tip: after listening to a podcast or audiobook, try summarizing the main points in your own words, using the new vocabulary you've learned. This practice will help you remember and use the words in your own speech. Engage in conversations. Speaking with others is a powerful way to learn vocabulary in context. Whether you're talking to a friend, a language partner, or a teacher, conversations allow you to use new words and see how others use them. As you practice speaking, you'll learn how words fit naturally into sentences, helping you improve both your vocabulary and fluency. Tip: don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you practice using new words, the more confident and fluent you will become. Use vocabulary in sentences. Rather than just memorizing vocabulary lists, try to use new words in sentences. This helps you remember them and understand how they fit into your own communication. For example, when you learn a new word, make an effort to write it down in a sentence. By doing this, you connect the word with its proper usage and context. Tip: start with simple sentences and gradually increase the complexity as you become more comfortable. This practice will help reinforce your understanding of how the word fits into different contexts. Group words by themes or categories. Grouping words by themes or categories, such as food, travel, emotions, or work, helps you learn them in a more organized way. For example, if you're learning words related to food, you might learn words like delicious, spicy, sour, and bitter together. This way, you learn the words in a related context, which makes it easier to remember them and use them correctly. Tip: use flashcards or apps like Anki or Quizlet to group related vocabulary together. You can create sets of words that go together and test yourself regularly. Make connections to your own life. To make new vocabulary stick, try to relate the words to your personal experiences. For example, if you learn the word adventure, think about your own travels or exciting experiences. When you make these personal connections, the words become more meaningful and easier to remember. Tip: keep a vocabulary journal where you write down new words and include personal examples of how the words connect to your life. This will help reinforce your learning and create a personal connection with each word. The power of repetition and practice. No matter how you choose to learn vocabulary and context, repetition is key. The more you encounter a word in different contexts, the more deeply it will become embedded in your memory. Repetition allows you to see how the word is used in various situations and reinforces your understanding of its meaning. Tip: review new vocabulary regularly. Go back to the stories, podcasts, or conversations where you learned new words and try to use them again. This will help you internalize the words and make them a natural part of your vocabulary. Practice consistently, not intensively. When it comes to learning a new language like English, one of the most important habits you can develop is consistent practice. Many learners believe that intensive study sessions, where they cram as much information as possible into a short time, are the best way to improve. However, research and experience show that consistent, regular practice is far more effective for long-term success. In this section, we'll explore why practicing consistently is more beneficial than intensive practice, and how you can make this approach work for you. Why consistency is key. Consistency is often the secret ingredient to mastering any skill, including learning English. Here's why it matters. Improves retention over time. When you practice consistently, you allow your brain to absorb information gradually. Instead of overwhelming yourself with too much new information at once, you're giving your mind time to process and store what you've learned. This leads to better long-term retention of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Avoids burnout. Intensive practice might feel productive in the short term, but it can lead to burnout. When you try to learn too much too quickly, you might get exhausted or frustrated, which can cause you to lose motivation. By practicing in smaller, manageable chunks, you avoid the risk of burnout and keep your learning experience enjoyable and sustainable. Builds a habit. Consistency turns learning into a habit. When you practice English every day, even for a short amount of time, you create a routine that becomes a natural part of your life. Over time, this routine will become so ingrained that it feels strange not to practice. Habits are much easier to maintain than occasional bursts of intensive study. Enhances fluency. Regular practice helps you become more fluent in English. By exposing yourself to the language consistently, you start thinking in English, which is a crucial step toward fluency. When you practice a little bit every day, you improve incrementally, and eventually you'll be able to speak and understand English naturally and without hesitation. How to practice consistently. Now that we know why consistency is important, Let's explore some practical strategies for ensuring that you practice regularly without feeling overwhelmed. Set a realistic schedule. One of the best ways to ensure consistent practice is to create a schedule that fits into your daily routine. Rather than aiming for long, exhausting study sessions, set aside a few minutes each day for practice. For example, you could practice for 15 to 20 minutes every morning or evening. Consistency is more important than the length of each session, so keep it manageable. Tip: it's better to practice a little every day than to study for hours once a week. Short, daily practice sessions help keep the language fresh in your mind and prevent forgetting. Incorporate English into your daily life. One of the easiest ways to practice consistently is to integrate English into your everyday activities. You don't need to set aside separate time to study. Simply use English as part of your routine. For example, you can listen to English podcasts or music while commuting, watch English TV shows during your free time, or read articles and books in English. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more naturally it will become part of your life. Tip: look for opportunities to practice English in small ways throughout the day. These moments can add up and help you build your skills without feeling like you're constantly studying. Use language learning apps. Language learning apps like Duolingo, Babbel, or Anki can be excellent tools for practicing consistently. These apps offer bite-sized lessons that you can complete in just a few minutes each day. They're perfect for learners with busy schedules who might not have time for long study sessions. You can set reminders to practice every day, helping you stay on track with your language goals. Tip: set a daily goal for your app practice, such as completing 10 new words or phrases each day. Small, daily achievements will keep you motivated and ensure you're constantly learning. Practice speaking with a language partner. Speaking practice is essential to improving your fluency, and the best way to do this consistently is by finding a language partner. If you don't have someone nearby, there are many online platforms where you can find native English speakers or fellow learners to practice with. Schedule regular conversations, even if they're just for 10 or 15 minutes, to keep up your speaking practice. Tip: even if you don't feel ready to speak fluently, don't be afraid to practice. Making mistakes is part of the learning process, and each conversation will help you improve. Track your progress. Keeping track of your progress is a great way to stay motivated and consistent. Use a journal or an app to record the new vocabulary you've learned, grammar points you've mastered, and speaking achievements. When you see how much you've accomplished, it will encourage you to keep going. Tip: review your progress every week or month to see how far you've come. This reflection will help you recognize your improvements and motivate you to keep practicing. Set achievable goals. Setting small, realistic goals can keep you motivated and on track. Rather than aiming for perfection, focus on steady progress. For example, you could set a goal to learn 10 new words each week, or to hold a 5-minute conversation in English by the end of the month. These small wins will build your confidence and make learning feel more rewarding. Tip: break down your larger goals into smaller, manageable steps. This approach makes your progress feel more attainable and prevents you from getting overwhelmed. Making practice enjoyable. One of the keys to consistency is making learning fun. If you enjoy the process, you'll be more likely to stick with it over time. Find activities you like and incorporate them into your practice. For example, if you enjoy watching movies, Try watching English films with subtitles. If you love music, listen to English songs and try to understand the lyrics. The more you enjoy the process, the more likely you are to practice regularly. Tip: don't force yourself to practice things you don't enjoy. Find activities that keep you engaged and excited about learning. Avoid the trap of intensity. While it might be tempting to dedicate long hours to studying English all at once, remember that it's not about how much time you spend on learning in one sitting. Intensive study sessions can lead to frustration and burnout. Consistent practice is more sustainable, and it allows for more gradual progress over time. Tip: if you find yourself feeling burnt out or frustrated, take a short break and return to practice later. Regular practice over time will yield better results than trying to do everything in one go. Stay positive and motivated. Learning English, like any new skill, can come with its challenges. There will be moments of frustration, doubts, and slow progress. However, maintaining a positive mindset and staying motivated throughout the learning process is essential to success. In this section, we will explore why staying positive and motivated is crucial for learning English effortlessly, and how you can keep your motivation high, even when things get tough. Why staying positive matters. Having a positive attitude plays a significant role in language learning. Here are a few reasons why a positive mindset is important. Overcomes doubts and fears. Learning a new language can be intimidating, especially when you feel like you're not making fast progress. It's easy to feel discouraged or think you're not good enough. However, staying positive allows you to push through those moments of doubt and keeps you focused on your long-term goals. It helps you realize that learning takes time and that it's okay to make mistakes. Increases motivation. A positive mindset is a powerful motivator. When you believe in your ability to improve, you're more likely to stay committed to your learning journey. On the other hand, if you focus on negative thoughts, it can quickly lead to burnout and a loss of interest. Staying positive helps you keep the excitement alive, making the learning process enjoyable and rewarding. Promotes resilience. In any learning process, you will face obstacles, whether it's struggling with vocabulary, grammar, or speaking. A positive mindset helps you view these challenges as opportunities for growth rather than roadblocks. When you maintain a positive attitude, you become more resilient and are able to bounce back from setbacks more easily. Improves retention. Positive emotions have been shown to improve memory and learning retention. When you are excited, motivated, and happy, your brain is more receptive to new information. Conversely, stress and negativity can inhibit learning. By staying positive, you are creating an environment in which your brain can absorb and retain information more efficiently. How to stay motivated. Motivation is key to ensuring you stay on track with your language learning goals. Here are some practical ways to keep your motivation high. Set clear and achievable goals. One of the most effective ways to stay motivated is by setting clear, achievable goals. Break down your larger language learning goals into smaller, manageable steps. For example, instead of aiming to speak English fluently right away, you might set a goal to learn 5 new words every week, or hold a short conversation in English by the end of the month. Tip: keep your goals realistic and specific. Celebrate your small wins to build momentum and keep your motivation high. Track your progress. Tracking your progress is a great way to see how far you've come. It can be easy to feel like you're not making much progress, especially when learning a language can seem overwhelming. However, by reviewing how much you've learned over time, you'll see that you are, in fact, making progress. Tip: keep a journal or use an app to track your vocabulary, grammar lessons, and speaking achievements. Look back at your earlier entries to see how much you've improved. Find your why. Understanding why you want to learn English is essential for staying motivated. Are you learning English for career opportunities, to travel, or to communicate with family and friends? Having a clear reason will give you the determination to continue, even when the process gets tough. Tip: write down your reasons for learning English and refer back to them when you feel discouraged. This will remind you of your purpose and reignite your motivation. Celebrate small wins. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture and overlook the small victories along the way. Every time you learn a new word, understand a conversation, or complete a lesson, take a moment to celebrate your progress. These small wins add up over time and will keep you motivated to keep going. Tip: reward yourself when you reach a milestone, such as treating yourself to something special or enjoying a fun activity. Positive reinforcement will help you stay motivated. Mix up your learning methods. Learning English doesn't have to be monotonous. If you find yourself getting bored with the same study routine, mix things up by trying new learning methods. Watch English TV shows or movies, listen to podcasts, read books, or join a language exchange group. Variety keeps things interesting and ensures you stay engaged. Tip: experiment with different methods until you find what works best for you. Keep your practice fresh and exciting to maintain your motivation. Surround yourself with positive influences. The people you interact with can have a significant impact on your motivation. Surround yourself with positive influences, whether it's fellow language learners, supportive friends, or encouraging family members. Sharing your goals and progress with others can help you stay accountable and motivated. Tip: join online language learning communities or find a language partner to practice speaking with. These communities offer support, encouragement, and the opportunity to connect with others on the same journey. Embrace mistakes and learn from them. Mistakes are an inevitable part of learning a language. Instead of getting frustrated when you make errors, embrace them as opportunities for growth. Every mistake is a chance to improve, and a positive mindset helps you view these moments as valuable learning experiences rather than failures. Tip: when you make a mistake, don't be too hard on yourself. Reflect on it, understand what went wrong, and use it to do better next time. Dealing with frustration. Even the most motivated learners experience moments of frustration. It's normal to feel stuck or discouraged at times, but it's important not to let these feelings stop you. When you face difficulties, take a step back, breathe, and remind yourself that learning is a journey. Everyone experiences setbacks, but they don't define your ability to succeed. Tip: if you're feeling frustrated, take a short break, change your study routine, or try something different to refresh your mindset. Stay patient with yourself. Language learning takes time. You won't become fluent overnight, and that's okay. The key is to remain patient with yourself. Keep in mind that each day you're getting one step closer to your goal. Trust the process and enjoy the small victories along the way. Tip: remember that consistency over time is what leads to success. Be kind to yourself and focus on your long-term progress. Conclusion: learning English doesn't have to be a daunting task. By approaching it with the right mindset consistent practice, and the right techniques, you can make the process more enjoyable and effective. Throughout this podcast, we've explored several key strategies to help you learn English effortlessly. From understanding the concept of effortless learning to immersing yourself in the language and focusing on consistent practice, each of these steps contributes to your overall success. By integrating English into your daily life, whether through listening, speaking, or learning vocabulary in context, you create an environment where learning feels natural rather than forced. It's also important to remember that language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience and consistency are crucial in achieving fluency. Focus on progress, not perfection, and celebrate every small achievement along the way. Most importantly, stay positive and motivated. It's easy to feel discouraged at times, but by maintaining a positive attitude and setting achievable goals, you will keep moving forward and overcome any obstacles that come your way. Remember that everyone's learning journey is unique, and it's okay to make mistakes. What matters is that you keep going. So, whether you're just starting your English learning journey or have been practicing for a while, keep applying these strategies, stay consistent, and above all, enjoy the process. English isn't just a language, it's a tool that opens doors to new opportunities, new cultures, and new ways of thinking. Keep your goals in mind, stay committed, and trust yourself. You're already on the right path to learning English effortlessly. Thank you for tuning in to this episode, and I hope the tips shared here will help you feel more confident and motivated in your English learning journey. Keep practicing, stay positive, and enjoy the ride. You've got this.